Hi there, welcome back to the series of Master Python with practice questions, where we learn by doing. In this session, we are going to embark on question 3, so let's get started. So the question says that using a function and variables entered from the keyboard, write a program that allows a user to input a number. If the number is an even number, it returns the input divided by 2 plus 1, and if the input is an odd number, it returns the square of the input. So the first thing that you have to do is to go ahead and create a function that is going to perform this task. So we define the function and we pass in a name, and the name of the function must always be relevant according to the problem defined. So for this case, the name can be even or odd number. So since the program must allow a user to input a number, we have to create a variable that is going to store the number that the user enters. So the variable can be number, and we have to prompt the user to enter this number. So the way we prompt the user is by working with the input function, and the input function passes in a prompt string, and for this case we can add the string by saying enter a number. So with the input function, whatever input the user submits is always of type string. So for this case, if you want to work with a number in a way that we are going to check if it is even or odd, we have to ensure that the number that the user submits is of type int. So we cast this by working with the input constructor that is going to convert the number from a string into an input type. So having stored the number and casted it to an integer, we now have to go ahead and create a condition that is going to check whether a number is even or odd. So for this case, we are having two conditions, an even number or an odd number. So we are going to choose the condition for an even number, and an even number is a number that leaves no remainder when divided by 2. And for this case, the way we are going to cater for remainders is by working with the modulus operator. If the number the first thing I can actually do is going ahead and adding a comment here. So this is going to be an even number. So if the number modulus 2 leaves no remainder, then this is going to be an even number. So cases whereby the number is even, we have to return the input divided by 2 plus 1. So we therefore need a variable that is going to store the result. So we can define a variable result and we assign it basing on the conditions for each number. So if the number is even, we want to go ahead and return the number divided by 2 plus 1. So I'll make sure that first of all we are adding parentheses. So we capture the number and we divide it by 2. Then we add 1 to the result of this. So since we are only having two conditions, if we test for an even number for the first condition, then the other number must be odd. So for an odd number, we shall also comment this, else this is going to be an odd number. Can actually copy this expression and paste it here. So if the number is odd, the result must be the square of the input. So we can access the number and the 2 asterisks, that is going to be the number squared, then raised to 2. Or we can also say number multiplied by the number. We multiply the number by itself. But for this case, we can actually go with the first approach. And for each number, we have to therefore go ahead and return the output. So we are going to return a customized output for this case since the question is open and not so specific. So return the number, and this is going to be an even number. Then we shall concatenate this with the result. And we can actually add an escape sequence such that the result string is now printed on a new line. And for this case, before we actually concatenate the result value, we can also ensure that we are casting it to an integer, and then the same applies to the odd number result. So the result value is now going to be casted into a string, and then we pass in the result variable. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and paste it here. Then we update the number to odd, and of course I'll ensure that the indentation is fine. So for now we are going to go ahead and test our function by calling it so even number or odd, even or odd. Then we run the application. So the program tells us to enter a number, and if we start by testing whether the number is even, so I'm going to enter an even number, which is 4. Then it returns the number which is even and then the result. So what happens is that if the number is uneven, this is what is going to be executed. So it takes in the number which is 4 divided by 2, and that is 2. Then 2 plus 1 gives us 3. So that is why the output is of this format. Then I'm going to go ahead and clear this up and run the application. So for this case, we are going to test the application by entering an odd number. So I enter 3. It returns number is odd. So if the number is not even, then that means that the statements that are going to be executed are these of our if condition, and it goes ahead and passes in the number and then multiplies it by itself. So it passes in 3, then 3 to the power 2 is 9, and that is why the output is this. So that is all for this approach, and thanks for watching. See you again in the next session.